Are you thinking of who, not how?
You're listening to the BulkLoads podcast, your number one resource for everything bulk freight trucking. And this is episode 232.
Hey guys, Jared Flynn with the BulkLoads podcast. Got Tyler with me.
What's going on?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
How was your Christmas with the family?
It was good. It was good. Lots of traveling.
Yeah, we did our travel early, so we got that out of the way. So now it's just relax this week. And we know a lot of you out there are probably off this week or taking time off. I know we've talked to a lot of truckers that usually kind of take off before Christmas and don't really get back on the road till after the new year. So, man, we hope you're out there enjoying time with your family. So, well, today's guest is a good friend of mine. Man, I think I'd like to say this guy has been a mentor to me. But Jason Rule is his name. And if I could say one word, I think of, have you ever seen the movie A Beautiful Mind?
I have
with
not.
Russell Crowe?
I haven't.
It's probably an older movie, and probably haven't seen it because it's older, but that's what I think of when I think of Jason Rule. So if you've seen the movie, like this guy, when I met him, he's just so, I don't know one way to say it, but like very just methodical and I mean, very creative, and got to know him really well. And the guy's been super successful as well. But this guy, I started just asking him questions, and any questions, life, but also on business. And it was just interesting, kind of the responses. But I don't want to go in the weeds because we're going to talk about that on the podcast. But yeah, Jason, he was in the nutrition business for a while, super successful, sold his business out. He does consulting work right now, but he's just one of those, like, you give him a problem and he can figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, and the three of us, we sat down earlier this year, and Jason coached us with some ideas, especially with what we're doing for marketing and social media and that aspect.
Yeah. The guy's a marketing guru. And I think my favorite part about him is he's just super blunt and to the point. He doesn't like fluff. He's just, hey, this is, we're going to lay it out. And you guys kind of get into it with the podcast. But he's got some interesting ways of how he goes into some of his ideas and problem solving. He kind of takes the opposite approach of what we're all used to.
Yeah. Well, the heart of it, why I wanted to bring him on, and, it's kind of why we titled this, who, not how. As business owners out there, we get stuck in ruts of trying to figure out, hey, how do we get past this step, or how do we move on? And sometimes I think we can get so tunnel visioned, and Jason has helped coach me on how to kind of think around that and get pushed through. As any business out there, there's a million things going on, but how do you not get stuck and keep moving? So that's what we're going to unpack today in this conversation with Jason. And I think you guys will really enjoy this. Before we start the show, though, man, we got a lot of cool things going on here after the first of the year. I just want to make mention of that. We'll probably mention a few of these others after the show. But we have our first ever bulk freight conference coming up in February. Tyler, you've been hard at work getting all this organized. Man, it is really coming together. I was nervous. I'm getting less nervous, but getting really, really excited about hosting this. I think more than anything, this is our first ever, but we see this hopefully as, an every year event to bring our customers, our clients in and meet them first off, but really just get to know, the problems they're facing, but how we can all collectively work together and solve these problems and make a better industry for it.
Yeah, and I actually got an email the other day of a broker asking, "Hey, is this event for everyone, or is it just for carriers?" And I replied back, "I mean, we want everyone there. We want all parties: shippers, brokers, carriers."
Well, that's when we thought about this.
Yeah,
we had to be careful because we're like, "Hey, we're making this more towards the shipping companies, the brokerages, the carriers." And my answer is it's all of the above.
Yeah.
And we've got some special keynote speakers. Tim Brady, he's been on the show several times. You guys have heard him, but he's going to come on and he's going to be one of our speakers talking more on the trucking side. But then we also have landed Greg Martinelli, but he comes from the shipper side as well. And I think some of these are going to overlap obviously with the brokerage, but we're tackling this on all facets. So if you're out there and interested, Tyler, you put some links already on our website, on the forum. But man, we would love for you to attend. I know you guys are busy. I know, again, from small business owners, you can't leave your post, otherwise your business sometimes just shuts down, and we understand that. But if you can make it, man, we would love for you to join. Would love to meet you. We got some really cool events planned. We'll have some panel discussions. The Wonders of Wildlife Tour, we haven't really talked about that much, but we have a really cool event afterwards at the end of on the 9th, where we're going to get passes to see the Wonders of Wildlife, which is part of Bass Pro. I won't go into the details on that. But again, February 8th and 9th here in Springfield, Missouri, BulkLoads Conference. It's I think you call it our inaugural conference. And we are super excited to be hosting that. So look at your calendars, man, sign up now before the tickets get sold out. We definitely want to see you there.
Yep. You can simply type in Bulk Freight Conference in Google. The website should pull up for you, or you can go over to our forum. We have it posted on there.
Yep. Awesome. Well, with that said, here's my conversation with Jason Rule. Hey, Jason, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't get to do in-studio recordings that often. Most of mine are done by phone, but you are a local 417 guy, and agreed to come by. So, man, thanks for coming to the studio.
Yeah, right on.
And
glad to do it.
And I just want to say, man, I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the past several months. We're going to talk about that a little bit more today. I mean, your story, but even how you've helped me grow BulkLoads, and we're going to speak a little bit about that, but some of the things you did. But, man, this is the end of the year. This is the last week.
That's right.
So there's a lot of cool things going on. We're excited for 2023, but I want to talk about like how we prepare for 2023. A lot of our listeners, I've explained to you, are business owners, small 1, 2, 5 truck owner operators, feed ingredient companies. But a lot of them, they got the same thoughts that I do. Like, hey, maybe we had a great year, maybe not so good year, but what does 2023 look like? How do I keep building my business, my team, the structure of my business? How do I set a plan in place? I think we're going to dive into that a little bit more. But I think when I thought about this, I was like, man, you're the guy to dive deep on this stuff. You helped me kind of structure some things and think about them in a different way. But before we get that, just so our audience knows a little bit more about kind of you and who you are, give us just a little bit of background. You're a West Kansas guy, so let's start there.
Born and raised in Western Kansas, Hays, Kansas, exactly. My dad, his family comes from a small town called Clayton, Kansas. My grandpa ran a grain elevator out there. Still have aunts and uncles that farm and ranch and do all that. Got a brother that's highway patrolman now in Kansas. It's actually and 2 nephews. So, and then from the trucking standpoint, with the exception of helping Stan, my uncle out in Western Kansas, with wheat harvest, I've never had any experience with that. On my mom's side, they have my grandpa and his brother, after World War II, started a trucking company down in Stark, Florida.
Yeah, you talked about that before.
Davis Express is the name of it. Shout out to all the Davises down there that are still running. So between my mom's side, my dad, my nephews, there's a lot of our family that made their living between the lines.
Nice. Talk about kind of your business background, kind of when you got started. I think that's pretty cool. Just, from the ideas that you saw to making it into a fairly large business, I'll say that.
Yeah.
Even exiting the business and selling the business. But can you give us just a little bit of background on that?
Sure. That'd be a long podcast if we broke down all the different things. But I used to own some GNC stores, and I saw a problem in the industry where a lot of the supplement companies were not running things the way that I felt they ought to be, from the store standpoint and the customer standpoint. So I felt I had the stores, I had the outlets for the products. I just needed the products that I could stand behind. Built that up, started at actually about coming up on 20 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then I happened to be at a CrossFit competition in Springfield, Missouri. HOA 4. So shout out to Jeremy Meyer.
Yeah.
And I was blown away by the sincerity of the CrossFitters. And the problem is that we had supplements in the bodybuilding space, but CrossFitters and bodybuilders really didn't. There wasn't a good connection there.
Right.
They disliked the way that each other's worked out.
Yeah. Well, the CrossFitters, they were, and still today, a little bit of their own tribe, a little unique, just different.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I spotted with that genuineness from the CrossFitters themselves. They were, they were kind. It wasn't much ego involved. And it was at that point that I realized, okay, well, I can start another supplement brand, using the same products, but then focusing on an entirely different market. So while one brand was focused on the bodybuilders, the meatheads, the supplement stores, the other brand then transitioned over into CrossFitters, that tribal mentality. So I looked at the standpoint of, okay, who are the people that are selling products to the CrossFitters? It was the gym owners. Well, for me, that was kind of a bright spot for me to recognize that the gym owners didn't necessarily know how to ethically sell supplements, or really didn't know how to sell to begin with. So I felt,
well, they weren't naturally salesmen. I mean,
exactly. They come from military, past firefighters, law enforcement, and they had a desire to serve. And that's actually one of the things I heard at this competition was they kept saying over and over again, I don't care if I make a profit. I just want a really good product to offer my members. And I remember standing there, and there was 3 or 4 of them around, and I thought I was going to get beat up because I said, well, guys, that's admirable, but that's stupid. You should, number one, you should only sell something if you believe in it. Number 2, you should only do it in business if it's going to generate a profit, either short-term or long-term. So that's really where I got the idea for the second brand of, say, okay, well, what if I created a brand from scratch, and then I teach you guys how you can sell it, not the way that I would sell it, but how it would work for you. And we leaned into that, and yeah, so end of 2021, I exited that business, and just kind of been enjoying a little lower stress levels over the last 10, 12 months.
You're still dabbling in some other spaces, got some other, I don't want to call them side hustles, but investments. Can you just share a little bit some of these other ones that you're?
Yeah, so I have a marketing agency, so I kind of teach business optimization. What are things that you can do to improve your operations, either at the customer level, at the staff level, or at the individual level, the C-suite guys. I also was invited into a startup. It's a company called Tailjoy, pet supplies, pet snacks. Have a couple websites also that sell hemp and CBD products, distribution and direct-to-consumer model there.
So I want to dive in and talk about a little bit of the startup process. And we've talked about this before. It's kind of one of my favorites, but there can be some tensions with that, or how to, how do you do this? And then even go to where, a lot of our customers, a lot of our members, people that are listening to this podcast, they're in this phase now of trying to figure out, how to grow their business or where they stand and all that. I've talked with you numerous times on this, like when I have a problem trying to get, how to get out of the weeds. But you said something, and I want you to kind of really run with this, but is it, and there was I think another guy that kind of coined this, but it's like, how to, when you have this problem, is it how to, or it's not so much the why, but like, what are the next steps? Talk about that a little bit.
Oh man, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, because a lot of us are sitting there and it's like, I think, and I do this all the time, but like, it's like, okay, I want to do this. I want to grow this company. But then like, okay, I don't even know what to do next. Like, where do I take the next steps? And like, how do I figure that out? But I think, man, so many people are out there listening. It's like, and maybe it's just a side hustle. Maybe somebody's working for somewhere, but they have this dream to sell some kind of product or this idea for an app or whatever. Man, today at no better time in our lives is it's so, I mean, it's so much better. So easy. I shouldn't say easier, but there's so many more resources out there. But talk to that. I think that's where I really want to run with this conversation.
Okay. So I'll just launch off, and then you can kind of put some bumpers up, because I have a tendency to ramble, as you know. So one thing that comes to mind is, first you have to figure out what's your desired outcome.
Yep.
It's one thing to say, I want to do all of this stuff. Why? What's the why behind what you're doing?
Yeah.
another thing that has always stuck with me, that struck me when you were kind of listing those things out, is the quality of an answer is directly related to the quality of the question itself. So you have to be really careful. If you ask yourself a question, or I'm very careful. In fact, if somebody asks me a question, Val, my wife, she says, well, that's really rude to say that. A lot of times I'll say, well, that's not the right question. And I don't mean it to be rude. It's because a lot of times when we ask ourselves, well, I want to do this, or how can I go do this? Well, is that the right question? Because you can answer, how do I do this? But the right question is do I want to do that to begin with? Is that going to create the is that going to create the desired outcome that I'm actually looking for, the North Star? So it's always easiest to figure out what is north and then work from there.
Okay.
Now, I should say it's easiest because that comes from reps, doing it 1,000 times, putting mental bumpers up on yourself for, not getting distracted, not seeing shiny objects, and, really asking yourself the hard question of, why do I want to do that? What is it I'm trying to achieve by doing that? Is it 100,000 subscribers on YouTube? Is it 1 million subscribers on Instagram? Great. Why? A lot of times you can get the desired outcome without getting all of the answers that it needs to get the 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. You may not necessarily need that. So figuring out, what are you actually asking of yourself or of life? I say it's easy, but it's not.
Yeah.
But it's a worthy practice.
Yeah, that's good. I'm having this brain fog, but there was something you said about, like, it comes to the fact that, like, you don't have to do everything yourself, but, like, can you create, like, the levers, or, the questions you should be asking when you're looking at this? It's like, hey, how do I create the systems and processes to complete these tasks? I'm kind of jumping a little bit,
right?
But that, I kept thinking that's why I'm wanting to talk, because that's where I'm like, man, I shouldn't say you can outsource everything, but, like, should you be doing something versus hiring somebody to do that, and creating these levers or processes to get that goal accomplished?
Making sure you're asking the right question of, what is it that you need done? Determining, yes, I need that done. And then the next question is deciding who should do it. Because depending on where you are in business, you may either have more time and you may have more capital. Both of those are finite resources. Time is much more finite than capital, actually.
Yeah.
So figuring out, okay, this is something and I have to get this project done. Who should be the right person to do it? Is it you? Should you go and spend? Yep. Should you go and spend 10 hours on YouTube trying to figure out how to run a podcast board?
Right.
Or should you hire a consultant to come in and teach you how to do it?
Yeah.
Whether it takes an hour or 2 hours and you spend $200 or $300, and now you're able to run it to the ability that you need to. So you always have to ask, what am I trying to do? And then who should do it?
Yeah. Because I think when I was asking that question, because I was getting so tunnel visions on, how am I going to be able to complete this task? And I can't remember the specific one it was, but you responded back and you said, no, you need to be thinking of who, not how,
right,
to get that done.
Right.
And again, we have so much time in our day. Actually, I've consulted you just here recently. Like, I am a fast-paced driven guy, many ideas, many irons in the fire. And, my wife recently told me, like, hey, you don't have to keep creating, and I'm not going to go deep on that one, but, like, it was one of those, like, maybe I need to be thinking about some of these things that I am doing myself a lot, and creating systems of hiring people to do that, which will allow me in return to probably do more of other things.
Right.
But I think that's the crux of the matter, right?
It is. And then you get into not only who, not how, but then you also, well, I can have people go do this thing. Again, it goes back to the quality of the question is directly related to the answer itself. So do you need more people to do that? Or do you need somebody to take a look at your process and say, well, you're doing it the wrong way? Right. So it's not the question leads to, oh, I'll have someone do this, instead of actually looking at it and say, am I doing the right way to begin with? A good premise to start with is, I always assume I'm wrong before I start something. And what that does is that allows me the headspace to say, okay, well, I'm wrong, I'm screwing that up, or I'm making that a lot harder than I need to.
That's pretty valuable. You've never told me that one before. You back up and explain that again. So when you start anything, you already have in your mind that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this the wrong way.
Right. Yeah. That allows for the
Interesting.
greatest growth. Now that the other thing is that also allows to eliminate the fear of mistakes. Like you're going to make them. And if we know, like as people, it's scary to do something new. It's scary to come on a podcast because you may say something stupid and it's going to be out there in the ether for the rest of your life. So it's not until you do it a few times that you find out, okay, did I like doing it? Was it something I enjoyed doing? And then what did I do that created the best outcome? For me is I just simply don't prepare. I find it's best just to come and talk and have a conversation. So starting with preparing for a podcast, for example, I started the first one I did. I over prepared for it. There was one that I did 3 into it, and then I sucked at that one too. And then I found like, okay, I'm doing that wrong.
Yeah.
If genuinely, if I have anything to share that brings value, most likely it's going to come through a discovery of questions. So when the questions are asked, the idea will pop up. And so, yeah, whether I'm learning about how to go on a podcast or a system for business, I always tell people it's going to break, it's going to fall apart. Nothing's going to burn down from it. But by looking at it and accepting that I'm most likely wrong the way that I'm setting this up, that allows me the opportunity to improve it.
That's interesting because you're already programming your brain or creating that neural pathway to already contradict yourself in a way.
Right.
To say, hey, I want to do this, but I'm already thinking about it the wrong way.
Right.
Interesting.
Right. And we've all seen those people that come into things that are overconfident, and then they get kicked between the legs, and then they have a hard time overcoming it. So I just kind of look at it from the opposite standpoint of I'll just go in saying like, I think this will work, but we're going to test it and I'm most likely wrong. And when we test it and we find what parts I'm wrong at, we'll improve. It's an iterative process. You iterate towards the system that creates the desired outcome.
Interesting. I want to kind of just move a little bit, and again, thinking about our audience and I would say it's more of the objections I hear, or about the industry. You're saying a lot of these when people have maybe this mindset of kind of what's going on in the industry or their business or how do they do something, they need to step back and think about, hey, I'm probably looking at this the wrong way.
Right. And that starts with looking at your competitors. You shouldn't assume your competitors know it better than you. You can learn from some of the things that they do.
You got to repeat that again. So you shouldn't assume that your competitors already know it better than you do.
Right. One of the benefits of assuming you're starting from scratch wrong is that allows you to look at what everybody else is doing is wrong.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah.
Good.
Let's move, and I want to get into the specifics in here because there's a lot of value right here that you're giving to us. But we have thousands of these business owners, new guys starting up, some guys that have been in the industry for a while. What would just be some advice that you would give them kind of looking here? We're the last week of December. We're getting ready to go in 2023. The outlook may be kind of grim. I mean, it's showing, signs of, trucking demand's going to be down. That could have a negative effect on rates. And we're seeing fuel come down a little bit, but that's still a high cost. Give us some insights. And I know you're not in the trucking space, but just as a business owner, what should you be thinking about in 2023?
So you're talking specifically about owner operators.
Yeah, I'm just talking but business owners in general. Like, okay. How do you make sure that you're thinking the right way?
Do you mind if I go a little bit more specific for owner operators?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So for example, owner operators, how many hours in a day can they run?
10 hours.
10 hours.
Yep.
Okay. The greatest thing we have beyond our family is our health and our mind. Okay. And I think that 2023 from a business, from a personal standpoint, the beginning of the year, everybody's always trying to establish New Year's resolutions. Really, the thing to do is find 1 or 2 habits that you can implement that can improve your health. They can improve your thought processes. If an owner operator is on the road for 10 hours, they should be listening to things that can improve their life, their mind. So if you have a goal, if you have a business that you're wanting to go start.
So for example, maybe less listening to, I mean, music's good, but maybe less listening to music, even listening to negative news,
Yeah.
but maybe things that can actually directly focus or help their business.
Yeah. So here's an example. The random stuff that comes out of my mouth when questions are asked, it's not thoughts that I have. It's things I've heard or most likely read over the last 30 years. When I was 19, I just started listening to audiobooks. I don't listen to the radio at all. So every time still today, when I get in the car, there's an audiobook. Everything from a business book that's 80 years old to a business book that's a week old. Some of it's psychology. So I just kind of have a tendency to follow what do I enjoy listening to right now at the moment.
Yeah.
So if you're driving a truck and you've got 10 hours sitting there, no, you shouldn't listen to the news, because when's the last time you got an idea from the news that actually made you money?
Whew.
Right. It probably just pissed you off.
Never. Yeah. No,
Right.
it more fueled me to
Right.
think negative.
Right. Yeah. It probably just, chapped you a little bit, and then you're frustrated. And then
Or buy some kind of vitamin or
Right.
supplement that
Right.
got advertised a bazillion times, or
Right.
some pillow
Right.
type product. Yeah.
So again, it goes back to what's your desired outcome?
Yeah.
Do you like listening to the news, or would you like to be able to give yourself the ability, whether it's in 6 months or in 6 years, to learn the things you need to learn to be able to do the things you need to do to get the desired outcome, whether it's a business, whether it's a happy family life, whether it's being in shape. So that goes back to mind. So we covered that. For an owner operator, it comes down to, I know you guys are setting. It's tough. There's a sedentary lifestyle. So finding things that you can do to be able to move, get out, get some fresh air, go on walks.
Yeah.
Perfect bars.
Yeah.
I have no ownership in perfect bars.
You do not endorse or yeah.
I neither endorse. So my brother, Highway Patrol, he used to ask me quite a bit about eating, hey, how do you do this? Because he would always have, you've heard me say it in the gym, train wreck meals. Yep. That's really where I got that term, because he would go so long, and then by 2:00 he'd be so freaking
starving,
hungry.
hangry.
Right. Yeah. So you have to do something. So if you know that that's going to happen, have something handy. And the best thing you can have is something that's high protein. Perfect bars are the best things that I've found, because, whether it's $2 or $2.50, you can have those handy, keep a couple boxes in your truck.
Yep.
And then even though you may stop and actually have a meal at a restaurant, it's probably going to be smaller, because if you get, 14 to 16 to 18 grams of protein, that's going to digest slower. So you're simply not as hungry.
Yeah. No, and I told you I was a couple weeks ago on the road. I had to go up to St. Louis and then Omaha and back down. But I took your advice, and I had a cooler, because you got to keep these perfect bars cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I packed 2 boxes, and this is like probably the first time that I didn't stop off a gas station and go in and buy whatever, or scrounge around trying to figure out what to buy.
Right.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like I was like, I probably had one of my better weeks of eating clean
Right.
on the road, which never ever happens. But like you said, lifestyle, a lot of these guys, and we've had people on our show. We had a guest, I think it was last year, Dale Hermans, but actually talked about some of the techniques he does. He packs a lot of nuts and vegetables that he's got on his side. He even talked about exercise that he does at the truck stop, actually doing exercise workouts actually in like the shower rooms at truck stops.
Nice.
But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's huge. And again, like I think people, you might be on the other line being like, this guy doesn't know me. I'm not going to do that BS, whatever. But dude, like healthy body, healthy mind, dude, it all helps business.
You can't get a better North Star than that.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
So one thing I would like to say is, if you are of that mindset, like I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to exercise, or I can get by because you have the metabolism of a cheetah and you're 25 years old. Congratulations. But the truth is we all age, and we all have people that we can see in a specific industry, and we can see what their lifestyle leads them to, whether from how they look physically, how they are able to focus in a conversation. So again, it goes back to your desired outcome. What do you want? And then you work backwards.
Man, let's talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which part?
I mean, figuring out your desired outcome and then working back.
Okay. So I hoped and I prayed I would be 48 someday. That's how old I am right now. I hope I'm 50. I hope I'm 55. Now, if I look at other people who are 55, 60 years old, and if I just look at a few things that they do that get them to the point, or that I try to aspire to, whether, for me, it just comes down to being healthy. I'm never going to eat like a rabbit. I can't eat vegetables. I can't have carrots. I can't have broccoli. So what I do is I use the perfect bars as kind of a bumper. It keeps me from going into the gutter and having a crappy meal. We see people at the gym. They're 55, they're 60. One of the things they do is they're able to show up tomorrow. They don't go so hard that they injure themselves.
Yeah.
And you've heard me say that. My only goal of going to the gym is to be able to go tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so finding those things that the root of the outcome itself is usually pretty simple. And it's not as complicated as nothing against the guy you're talking about, fruits and nuts and vegetables and everything else. That's hard.
Yeah.
In fact, that makes it harder, because the worst thing you can do when you're trying to implement a new habit is to change it so drastically that it's unreasonable. You can't implement it. And then you get frustrated, or you get down on yourself, like, this shit doesn't work. I'm just not going to do it. Sorry about cussing.
Yeah. No, you're good.
But finding things that you can implement that are simple, that then kind of flow into the natural path of your life.
Yeah.
Then that starts creating some improvement. And so from a book standpoint, if anybody's listening, go to audible.com. It's fairly inexpensive. Once you get a membership, you can download a bunch of books. The first one I would recommend would be Tiny Habits. And then the other one would be Atomic Habits. And
I've read Atomic Habits. Yeah.
James Clear is great.
Yep.
He's very articulate, kind of like Jordan Peterson, but I found it's kind of like eating a slice of pecan pie. It's really good in a slice, but if you sit down to eat the whole pie, it kind of hurts your gut.
That's good.
Tiny Habits it's a more basic understanding. And then if you enjoy it, move on to Atomic Habits. But Tiny Habits really comes down to what's some small things in my life that I can change that will get me to the point to where I can, hopefully, assuming I'm healthy, be that 55, be that 60-year-old guy in the gym. What are some of those small things I can change instead of these drastic things that are completely unreasonable?
Yeah. No, you said that too. And for me, I look at some of these guys, and if you haven't caught on yet, Jason and I, we attend the same gym. But yeah, some of these guys that are in their 50s, even 60s, and still every day they show up.
Right.
And man, these guys have, a couple of those guys, it's discipline, but they've created these habits that allow them to every day to keep coming to the gym and showing up. That's a testament. Man, we got a little bit of time, about 5 more minutes. What else, like, again, thinking about 2023 business owner goals, changes maybe they want to make, they want to improve themselves, their business, lifestyle.
That's a big list, man.
I know it's a big list.
3 things I would focus on. Find a way to easily increase your income. Find some things that reduce your expenses. I know those are simple, but if you sit down and actually take a look at them, you can usually find 1 or 2 things.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that comes down to the third one, which is find some things that you can do that will either automate some of your processes to take things off of your plate. And I would be happy to unpack if you tell me some of the struggles that an owner operator deals with. I can get specific. I can kind of run down that path. But not knowing that industry very well, it's hard for me to bring much value to the table on that. But
well, I think overall, and we won't go too deep, but there's some of these costs that are that can be controlled and some not. We'll take fuel, for example, and it goes up and down. It's a variable cost, and it's hard to predict when that. Now, there's fuel cards and ways to save, but just how do you plan for that? And some companies, they can build in like a surcharge based on, the current standards. I know that's one. We did a survey just this last quarter and talking about like top concerns, and that was a huge one, like fuel costs, because sometimes it's a very sticky one that sometimes the rates getting paid to these guys don't adjust accordingly to fuel. So the truck driver is burdening the increased cost in fuel. That's falling on their lap and not the actual shipping company.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one. And then again, I think, and we've been working at this with BulkLoads, but just some of these other ancillary costs that they have, insurance, licensing, payments and stuff like that. But
Right.
that's where I see, the struggles. How do you figure out how to limit those costs, but even automate some of those processes? Because at the end of the day, a lot of the guys we deal with, awesome people, awesome business guys, but their goal, the reason they got in this business was to drive that truck.
Right.
I mean, most of them, that's what they're good at. That's what they want to be doing. So how do we help them outside of that process?
Well, the who, not how comes back to your insurance model. Like your guys' job, you have professionals on your staff that go and shop these rates to get the best rates. And you can, as a truck driver, you can go and you can make those phone calls, or then you're most likely going to get targeted on an ad. And that doesn't create a really good outcome either. So working with professionals in the industry that can reduce your costs, that absolutely should be deployed.
I like it. Well, Jason, man, we are down to the last minute. Hey, I just want to say, as going into this new year, man, thank you for your friendship, for your advice. Man, I always enjoy talking to you. I always know anytime I'm going to ask you a question, I'm probably going to get a question back, but I'm usually going to find the answer one way or the other. So, man, thank you for, I would almost say, being a mentor to me where I'm at in my business career. So thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year. And everybody have a great one.
Tyler, there's so much to unpack in this conversation. I know it felt like Jason and I kind of went on different topics and went down different holes, but I think that's just the way I wanted to get so much of his knowledge recorded and for our listeners out there. But everything from when he was talking about just having the desire to serve at the very beginning.
Yep.
And, again, this who, not how. How do we as business owners, and it doesn't even have to be business. Like if you have a project, if you're wanting to start something, and whether it's a hobby or whatever, but how do you kind of think differently about it? I get so stuck, I get so stuck with something in my head, and I think I'd let it sit there so long without trying to figure out the processes. And what's cool today, and Jason said this, like, man, we have so much technology out there and so many processes that it's just really figuring out, hey, what's the best way to handle it? And sometimes it's not yourself doing it all, but figuring out, hey, how to, find the right people or the right products to get whatever you want accomplished.
Yeah, exactly. And he kind of touched on the who, not how, but just how can you outsource? If you're really good at doing something, but you don't know how to do, something else. I mean, just kind of trying to think how, who you can have do that, if you can outsource it, if you can hire, instead of trying to do it all on your own.
Well, I'll end on this. What was inspiring to me about Jason, we all have the same amount of time in the day. You've heard this all the time, but Jason is very intentional on learning and growing. And he says this, he spends most of the time, like he does a lot of reading, but he does a lot of audiobooks. So man, when he's going down the road, he's not listening to music and entertainment. He's listening to the things that are going to build him up and build him. And I'm just as guilty of that. I think sometimes if I'm on a long road trip, I'll, put on an audio book and there's something I want to knock out. But a lot of times I'll just kind of turn on to mindless entertainment, something that's going to make me feel good instead of actually growing me. So that was inspiring me to hear, to say, hey, I need to be more proactive on learning, so much you can do from that. So, well, hey, this is our last podcast of 2022. We want to personally thank you, as always, as listeners to this. The reason we do this, it's not to, we don't have advertisers on here. We're not doing this to sell ads and make a bunch of money. It's to help you out there as the listeners. We really take this very serious on providing valuable content that you're going to gain from this to hopefully grow yourself as a leader, as a business owner, and get tools that are going to make you more efficient in the industry. I'll say this. we have had a record number of downloads, right,
Yeah.
Tyler?
Yeah,
I
we've
mean,
had double the amount of downloads this year than we did in 2021. And yeah, just going off of you, I mean, we just want to thank all of you. The way this thing grows and the way we keep bringing valuable content to you is by you, sending that link, that Spotify link to your buddy saying, listen to this episode. That quick 5 seconds that you guys do really helps us out. And we're just able to keep providing episodes and topics that you guys want to hear.
Yep. If you ever have ideas on episodes for 2023 or some things that you want to learn more about, man, let us know and we'll do the research and bring them on. So, man, if there's just something that you're struggling with or just something you're curious about, shoot us a message. Again, you can email us at support@bulkloads.com or text at 417-595-0123. We receive all those. We respond to all those. But yeah, if you have ideas, man, let us know, and we'd be happy to do the research and get that content onto the podcast.
Yeah. Even if you want to hear another guest again, if you say, man, I really like listening to Jason Rule, let us know. Let us know that you want him back on, and let us know what topics that you want to hear from him, and we can definitely work that out.
Yeah. We've had a lot of guests over this past year, but there was a couple that really stood out. Some of our top ones, the Conexial.
Yep.
We had a lot of good positive feedback on that. Anytime we talk legal regulations, and those are usually some of our highest ones. So we'll continue to focus on some of those type of podcasts to bring on.
Yep.
So, well, lastly, too, just a couple other things to kind of keep on your radar and plan. We are going to be at Matt's again, the Mid-America Truck Show, Louisville, Kentucky, 2023. Man, we are excited. Tyler, you've also been working on that. Last year was our pilot run.
Yep.
And we learned a lot. We really learned that we should have been there years ago. But more importantly, hey, how do we continue to expand that? We tell you this is, man, we want to see you there. It is, if you've never been to it, number one, you need to go.
Yeah.
You will, like I said, there is so much stuff out there and that you can gain from your business, whether you're a trucking company, even a freight brokerage, shipper. I mean, it is like, man, it's like the coolest thing on earth. But yeah, we're going to be out there. Make plans. Do you know the dates? I don't know.
I believe it's the first week in April.
First week in April. Yeah. Yep. And yeah, I'm sure you'll hear us talk specifically about it. But man, start planning that event. You won't be disappointed. We want to see you there. We have tripled the size of our booth.
Yeah.
So we realized that we had so many people come by that we want to make ours bigger so we can bring people more in to our booth and not hanging out outside. It was so overwhelming with the amount of people that we came, and probably 300 plus members.
Oh, yeah.
It was something just crazy last year. And we hope to see the same amount, if not more, out there. So, man, make sure that you plan on Matt's this year, 2023.
Our booth number is going to be 65120. Make sure to mark that down. We'll also be sharing it on social media as the event comes up. But not only will BulkLoads will be there, we're bringing our other companies, Smart Freight and Bulk Insurance Group. So if you ever listen to these podcasts and you're like, man, I'm thinking about, getting signed on with your insurance, but I'd like to shake their hand, look them in the eye. This is a great opportunity for you to come out, meet Larry, meet Zach and Fred and the producers at Bulk Insurance, to where you can really sit down, you can talk with them face to face.
Yep. And I'll end on that note too. The Smart Freight, but also the insurance that we've got off the ground. It has been awesome. It's been a lot of work, but man, we are doing truck insurance different than anybody else out there, and we're doing it better out there. And you're probably sitting there like, well, he's just trying to sell me. No, that Larry and the way that they have created this, it is like nothing else out there. We realize and listen to the problems and complaints guys have with insurance, and we have created a system that is far better than anyone out there. We guarantee it. We'd love to speak to you about it. I know we hear it all the time. Well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I've been with this guy for years. Hey, we want to show you that there is a better way. Get a hold of us.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, awesome. Well, hey, again, happy 2022. Happy New Year to you and your family out there. And we'll see you in 2023. God bless.